Stefani Germanotta is a name you might not recognize, but it's the name she was given at birth, and the name behind the mask we know as Lady Gaga. Stefani Joanne Angelina Germanotta, to be precise, a name partially inspired by family members, including her late aunt Joanne. Most of us now know her as that incredibly versatile pop star with enough outlandishness, charm, and down-to-earth personality to woo most crowds, but exactly how was the figure we know as Gaga born? This way, let's take a deeper dive. Stefani Germanotta was always built for the limelight. Because of her passion for theater, music, and simply dressing in a more unconventional manner, she was relentlessly bullied in school. Proving her grit and determination, she managed to do what most can't by building up thick skin and continuing on despite the taunts from classmates. Her impressive vocal range and talent she now possesses stems from her early training, which started when she was just 11 years old. Vocal coach Dawn Lawrence began coaching her at that age, taking a modern pop approach to a more classical and opera-style technique that he had previously taught. Stunningly enough, Lawrence is still with her to this day, on board as both a mentor and a coach that's helped her sing the way that most simply can't.
Hey, mama said the way you move, gonna make you sweat, gonna make you groove.
After high school, she further pursued the arts and higher education with a brief stint at NYU Tisch, an arts school that allowed her to focus on her songwriting. In just a short time, she realized that she simply was not content and ended up dropping out. Singing and dancing in dive bars and other less than reputable places is what paid the bills in the meantime, and even though she landed a record deal with Def Jam Recordings at age 19, it was short-lived. Rebounding from the news that her label had dropped her due to creative and visionary differences, she continued playing music with her newly formed Stefani Germanotta band. As they played more and more shows, people in the audience started to notice how truly talented she was not only as a songwriter, but as a vocalist. Gigs at bars and nightclubs all over town got the word out locally, but it was cleared by the small attendance at their 2000 stop at Bonnaroo Music Festival that the rest of the world wasn't aware of the wide-eyed bikini-wearing music festival entertainer, as most who were lucky enough to be in the original audience looked back to comment and say, "I knew this girl was destined for fame." Fame was indeed the road she was barreling towards. She was just on the outskirts of town at this point, though. Despite not being accepted initially as a solo artist, she began writing hit songs for pop staples like Britney Spears, Fergie, and yes, even New Kids on the Block. For her own tracks at the time, she began to incorporate electronics and pop melodies into her style, while retaining some of the influences that actually inspired her to begin with. While in the studio one day, Germanotta was laying down scratch vocals for a track by Akon when the singer couldn't help but notice her raw talent. He immediately sought out a way to have her signed to his label, eventually convincing Interscope head Jimmy Iovine to sign her to a joint deal via Cherry Tree and Con Live Records. Within a year of that chance of fate meeting, the persona we now know as Lady Gaga was born into the world, debuting with her ever-famous, now decade-plus-old electro-pop single, Just Dance. Moving to LA was a big deal for the New York girl, but it was the chance of a lifetime as she finally had a support group around her that believed in her crazy visions. Teaming up with the likes of Space Cowboy, and who is now a longtime collaborator and friend Red One, proved to be production heaven for Gaga, with those names playing a big role in her singles and the album The Fame. Even though Just Dance was a smash hit, eventually landing at #1 on the US Hot 100, not everyone was a fan. Insults were constantly tossed her way as she ramped up for her debut album's release, with many commenting on her wild looks and sexually explicit lyrics. Follow-up single Poker Face only furthered the outrage from some, but you know what they say, any press is good press, at least in most cases. People in fact couldn't stop talking about her, as worldwide sales passed 9 million units within a year of Poker Face's release.
I'll get him high, show him what I got.
Even though the singles were red hot right out of the gate, her album The Fame was more of a slow burn, debuting at number 17 on the Billboard 200 chart. However, the ongoing success of Just Dance and Poker Face kept the album's sales chugging along steadily, eventually reaching a higher peak of number 2 after its re-release, but hold that thought for just a minute. Gaga was taking the world by storm, commanding media attention and young music fans as she toured the world and let everyone know that Lady Gaga was here to stay. The Fame might not be something that comes to mind when you think of classic mainstream pop albums, but it's definitely something that I hold up there in very high regard. Her unique perspective and sharp tactical songwriting was felt in a bold way, daring to push the boundaries of what the general public would accept. I felt that many glazed over Gaga's talent in this era especially, preferring to make jokes about her sexuality and over-the-top image in some sort of desperate attempt to discredit her talent. If you genuinely don't like the music, that's one thing, but to say she's a talentless hack is just absurd. This debut album is relatively diverse too, with some tracks like Starstruck taking on the oddity of autotune, and others like Brown Eyes dazzling with a classic pop charm that saw her lusting after someone that she knew she couldn't have.
It's everything, what's everything, but everything is over. Everything could be everything, if only we were older.
While Fame brings money, attention, and tons of adoring fans that she began to label as little monsters, it also brings darker things that most don't like to talk about. Gaga channeled these feelings into a new EP we now know as The Fame Monster, sold both as a standalone piece and as a reissue of her debut album, The Fame. This 34-minute EP proved that Gaga wasn't just a one-album wonder, but instead that she was a light in the music industry that wouldn't soon burn out. Instead of dialing it back a bit, she stepped on the gas and grooved to an even more unpredictable place. 4 of the 8 songs were released as singles, with 3 of those hitting the top 10 in America. Her fans seemed to be the main thing fueling her at this time, calling out to the little monsters as she would engage in her thrilling live shows that featured all sorts of set, costume, and pace changes. The Monster Ball tour brought in hundreds of millions of dollars, becoming the most successful tour for an artist touring on their debut album ever. As online culture was becoming more and more mainstream, Gaga and her label wisely honed in on the connected community known as the Little Monsters and made them feel special. Even though modern fandoms as we know them are often very toxic, early on, they were a safe space for the weird kids just like Gaga who didn't have a place to call home. As a decade has passed by since her debut album, Lady Gaga has proved time and time again that she's a defender of those who might be considered weird or out of place. She's actively involved in politics, is a massive supporter of the LGBT community, and is one of the very few mainstream artists that genuinely seems to care about the art of music and the vision that goes along with it. From the fame and the years of unrelenting touring that took a huge toll on her body to bringing things back to her roots on the underappreciated Joanne, Lady Gaga has truly cemented her place in music history.
Girl, where do you think you're going? Where do you think you're going, girl? Girl, where do you think you're going? Where do you think you're going, girl?
If you were lucky enough to be there from the start, you witnessed one of the strangest yet most interesting explosions the pop world has ever seen. Even if she never again reaches the heights of popularity that she saw from 2008 to 2011, she'll always have a place in the hearts of many. True talent with staying power is born that way. Thank you for tuning into this video essay on Lady Gaga. Please drop a like on the video and go subscribe to Infinity on Hannah. She edited this video, put in a ton of hours and work to make this fantastic, so go show her some love. Tell her thank you at least in the comments down below. Make sure you check out a couple of recent video essays down below me, and other than that, I'll see you soon on ARTV.